Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
What I wanted to go through is, because this week's blog was on resistance. And what do we resist, and what do I mean by resistance? It's not resistance like this. It's not positive when you need to resist against. We internally resist. We can sit here and resist. I have seen a lot of that's resistance. Okay? So why would we resist? Good question. So, Shiva Sutras. And what I wanted to talk about a little bit is about the Matrika Shakti, and more importantly, the impurities. So, the three impurities are Anava Mala, Maya Mala, and Karma Mala. Anava Mala, and this is from Jaidev Singh's commentary. It is the primal limiting condition which reduces the universal consciousness to that of an empirical being. Me. Okay? It is a cosmic limiting condition over which the individual has no control. It is owing to this that the jiva, or individual, soul considers itself imperfect, a separate entity cut off from universal consciousness. So the classic phrase for Anava Mala is, I am imperfect. And I know no one in this room has ever felt that. Right. So the greatness of Shiva in this condition is concealed. So the truth is, we're concealed. And the individual forgets his real nature. The Anava Mala is brought about in two ways. There may be knowledge, but the perfect I consciousness, whose nature is freedom of all cognition and activity, may be missing. That's pretty much what happens. Or there may be I consciousness with ignorance, as it says, as in common folk. In other words, we're blinded. We're blinded. That's just a given. Second mala is Maya Mala. And this is the limiting condition brought about by Maya, which gives to the soul its gross and subtle body. It is also cosmic, and is that which brings about the consciousness of difference owing to the differing limiting adjuncts of the bodies. I'm separate is the Maya Mala. I am separate. I have this body, this small self. You have that body and that small self. We are separate. I am separate. So I am imperfect and separate. And then finally we have Karma Mala, which is, it is the impressions of actions done in the subtle and the karma, the other bodies, under the influence of the small self. It is a limiting condition brought about by the individual by his karma and its impressions. So its actions. And what happens here is I am the doer of good and bad deeds. So I am imperfect, I am separate, and I am the doer of good and bad deeds. So anybody coming in here to this room, that's where they will have initially started. We all start there. I am separate, I am imperfect, and I am the doer of good and bad deeds. And all those three things, according to Kashmir Shaivism, makes us unhappy. Makes us miserable. We're not ourselves, right? We are definitely not ourselves. And so my job is to remove that understanding, that ignorance. And it isn't by repeat after me and say, I am perfect. I am perfect. I am perfect. I am universal. I am not separate. I am repeat. I am universal. I am not separate. It is not done that way. And the reason it is not done that way, because that's just an intellectual understanding. What has to be is everything that obscures our real nature, all the vibrations, all the things that we have each created over probably thousands of lives, has to be stilled, quieted, dissolved, seen, and eliminated. So that then, oh, there I am. So that I can look at you and I go, I see you. And you know, I'm right. And there's no hate then, because I am imperfect, I am separate, and I am the doer of good and bad deeds, creates our own self-hatred. Very clearly, it's an affliction. We're afflicted. And so, job is to remove this. Now, because we are identified with these three malas now, I don't want you to take me away from me. But it's not you. Yes, it is. No, it's not. It's not you. It's not you. It is me. It's me. Really? So I'm going to hold on to me. Now, if you don't know who you really are, but you have a slight remembrance way in there if you go in, what will happen is you're going to, at times, grab back on because you don't want to be unsteady. You don't want to be unstable. You don't want, I know who I am. I'm this miserable person. But at least I know who I am. And if you hold on like that, then you're going to resist. And all that we're doing here, it's not therapy, it's not going through all that, is the removal of the malas. I am imperfect. Is the small self imperfect? Yes. So we're removing that wrong understanding, not to have then the small self saying I'm perfect, but to move you back to who you really are. No longer imperfect, no longer separate, and no longer the doer of good and bad deeds. Now, how do we get ourselves caught into this game? Or what are the tools that God uses to mess with us? And the biggest thing is what I'm using right now. Letters, words, stuff. So, we go again to the Shiva Sutras, and section 1, Sutra 4, is Yana Dishtana Matrika. Mother, or the power of sound corresponding to the letters of the alphabet. This power is called Mother because it produces the entire universe. Think of it. All your letters pulled together and boom, there's a restaurant. Boom, there's a car. There's a relationship, or whatever kind of relationship. It is the ununderstood mother, or power of sound inherent in the alphabet, that is the basis of the limited knowledge in the form of Anava, Maya, and Karma Mala. So our job is to understand the power underneath the letters. Therefore, in here and hopefully outside, we all practice be with your experience. Let whatever comes up from that experience come up. Let whatever comes up, whatever letters that come up. And then be aware of them consciously so that we can then not act on them, but function appropriately on the physical plane. We then have choice. But if the ununderstood mother is running my life, I'm not going to have any awareness. Those letters are going to come up. I'm going to just go and act on it. I am not going to, I won't be checking my motivation. I won't be testing anything. It's just going to whoop, sure, bam, and I'm out there. And I'll be having to clean things up all over the place. There'll be a carcass over here and a mess over there, and that's what happens. Those letters have to be understood. The power behind the letters. And the only way we can do that is by being with our experience and letting those letters arise from that experience. And you sit long enough with that experience, those letters come up and they form little words. And you go, whoa, look what I'm thinking. Whoa, really like to do that, can't do that. And then we choose to function appropriately. So, Jaidev Singh's commentary on this, or actually it's not his, it's a translation of the commentator. A threefold form of limited knowledge in the form of threefold mala, I am imperfect, I am separate, and I am the doer of good and bad deeds, has been described above. Of this threefold limited knowledge, that which makes oneself consider himself as incomplete and imperfect is the Anava Mala. That which brings a sense of difference in everything is Maya Mala. That which makes one perform good or bad deeds is Karma Mala. Of this threefold limited knowledge, Matrika, or alphabet, from A to Ksha, the mother of the entire universe, is the presiding deity. She is called Matrika because she is unknown and ununderstood. She's not understood. And so we're at the mercy of our own language. We're at the mercy of those letters that come up. And we just throw them out until we are willing to be with the experience, whatever it is. I don't ever, and I gotta say it, I don't ever judge you for your experience if it's your honest experience. You let whatever comes up come up and be responsible. Whoa! Look at those letters pulled together. look what I'm thinking from that vibration. And how many times have I acted on that, not being conscious? And when we understand and we know that mother, we then are able to function appropriately on the physical plane. We're not run by her anymore. Those letters, those vibrations don't run us. And if we mistakenly call what comes up, we cloak it and we lie to ourselves, then it is truly the ununderstood mother. And she will wreak havoc on our lives. So important. So, back to, these are notes from Jaidev Singh. Matrika means the mother who is not properly known or understood. Matrika is the subtle form of gross speech. Oh, we say, that's why Rohini keeps saying, be with your experience. That's the subtle form. Let whatever comes up, come up. Oh, there's the gross speech. There it is. It came right out of that thing. Whoa. I don't want to act on that. Now I'm getting to know that mother. The letters and their ultimate essential nature are known as Matrika. When unknown, the Matrika impels people towards all kinds of worldly activities and feelings. When the Matrika is known, when her saving power is realized, she leads one to liberation. Frees you. So if we go back later, much later on, in the third section, there's the sutra called Yanam Bandhaha, of this limited empirical self. Mind-born knowledge is the source of bondage. Stuff here, source of bondage. So, the meaning of that sutra is that lower, limited knowledge of the embodied individual becomes the cause of his bondage. That's why we're supposed to be with our experience, let whatever comes up, come up, and then function about that. Don't do that. Because lower limited knowledge of the embodied individual becomes the cause of his bondage. So, in that sutra, there are 3 reasons for the explanation. First, practical life, we deal with particulars. So the empirical individual thinks that particulars are the sole truth of life. Big mistake. Big mistake. Very obvious. And this one. All the ideas of the individual are derived from sensory motor perceptions, their images and thought constructs, imagination, and fancies of the mind, and the stock of words that he has gathered by experience and study. He becomes a plaything of the Matrika chakra. He becomes a plaything of his vocabulary lists. He is unable to believe that there can be any supersensuous reality, so he builds a prison for himself in which he takes the utmost delight to live. That is classic. There's the little box. This is me. Oh, you're not being yourself today, are you? Thank God. Free. Disentangle. This is clear? This is getting clear? And finally, he considers his mind-body complex, his psychophysical organism, to be his self. Me. This is me. He does not care to know that these are only instruments for the life of the Atma, his real self, on the material plane. So he indulges in gross physical pleasures. The desire for them becomes so strong that he becomes their victim. He does not enjoy them. They enjoy him. So what do we do?
Be with our experience.
Let whatever comes up, come up, and function appropriately on the physical plane. So, second sutra, Shiva Sutra, second sutra, or the ninth sutra of the second section, is Jnanam Annam. Knowledge is food. And this is Baba's commentary. And he said, food is the very life of the embodied soul. By food, the body arises. By food, it is sustained. Into food, it merges in the end. The earth is rich with food. The food that is nourishing to a yogi and brings him satisfaction and bliss is the awareness of his own nature. Contented rest in his own Atma, or self. In Sutra 1-2, knowledge was said to be bondage. That was outer knowledge, implying forgetfulness of one's nature, ignorance of inner realities, the ego sense, the sense of I, mine. The other kind of knowledge is that of unity arising by the grace of the Guru. This knowledge transcends the imaginary distinctions of logic, matter and consciousness, one soul and many souls, the individual and the universal, the atom and the cosmos, liberation and bondage. This knowledge takes one beyond the reach of death, time, limitation, to the supreme self and supreme contentment. Knowledge, then, is food in the sense that it gives perfect satisfaction and perfect rest. So we go from I am imperfect, I am separate, and I am the doer of good and bad deeds, to removing that ignorance, understanding the Matrika Shakti, understanding the power inherent in the letters, and we move to being who we truly are. But we can't, it isn't like, okay, I got it, that was fun. I did that in 20 minutes or so, we're done, okay? No, it's hard work. Don't get me wrong. It is, I know it's not easy. I've done it. I'm doing it. It's not easy. It's hard work. But, I don't know, living a miserable life is a whole lot harder. A whole lot harder, from my opinion. I don't know about you guys. So what we're doing here is bit by bit, or chunk by chunk, boulder by boulder, gigantic field by gigantic field, getting rid of that ignorance. And it's getting rid of it not as a thought form. I could probably pass out paper and we could all take a test and you'd all answer the questions correctly. It's about in here. So what's the experience we're supposed to have? What's our real nature? It's love. And what's everything that comes from there as it's obscured? It's twisted love. Okay, so we're untwisting. And all that I want, all that I ask, is that you be honest with yourselves. Don't lie to yourself. It doesn't work. It really doesn't work. So you're unhappy today? I'm unhappy today. That's okay. Be with it. I'm feeling anxious today. I'm feeling blah today. Okay. I'm feeling joy today. Okay. I'm feeling love today. Okay. Just be with it. Don't run. Don't run. So when I say give up resistance, it's not about resistance to Rohini, the small self Rohini, because as I've said before, if we were going to take small self Rohini to direct you, we'd be doing some very interesting things. This is about surrendering to your own true nature. This is about stopping resisting yourself. The resistance is not, if it's to me, you started it with you. Stop stepping on yourselves. Stop resisting yourselves. Stop it. Stop holding on for dear life to something that's not true. And the truth is, as we wipe it away, all this ignorance, we're not going to look all that different. We're not going to be doing different activities. We're not going to be wearing different clothes. You're still going to go, we're still in Baltimore at here or wherever anybody else is. But our experience of that, those are our vehicles. We then rest in our true nature.